You are listening to the Dark Fantastic Podcast.
Welcome to this special Christmas episode of the Dark Fantastic Podcast. I'm your host, AK, and I've got some great things lined up for you on this episode right after this.
Summer 1990. A teenage boy in trouble. An evil that only comes out at night. Only a straight-to VHS movie can save him. From A. Kale, the author of Beware the Night. Bad Dreams. A thrilling horror novel, now available on Amazon. Rated PG-13 for some thematic elements and mild violence.
My guest on this episode is an actor and filmmaker. He has starred in many movies and TV shows, including Waiting with Ryan Reynolds, Burn Notice, and the Walt Disney biography Walt Before Mickey, which was released on Netflix. In this interview, we talk about his work as actor and producer on the film Diamond in the Rough, how he got his start in acting, and the future of spiritual stories in Hollywood. Please welcome Jordan Werner. You're obviously very busy.
Yeah.
You do a lot of things, and I really wanted you on the show because I love the movie very much. It came to me as a surprise. We'll get to that in a minute, but I'll just tell you that I just loved Diamond in the Rough so much. I'm not really into movies that, deal with or have an element of sentimentality in them. I'm usually not really attracted to that. I'm not saying I'm a hard-edged guy, but usually they are not well done. I know how it goes. So usually it's very hard to maintain that balance of making a heartfelt movie.
Yes.
That doesn't come off as,
cheesy.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey towards becoming an actor and a producer? Because I know that you are an actor, a producer, and also a director.
Yes.
You've done television, you've done movies, you've done a lot of things. So can you talk a little bit about that journey?
I started acting when I was really young. There was a play called The King and I, which is a very famous play. And it was when I was 7 years old. It was called the Lake Worth Playhouse. And I really wanted to audition for this part. And I bugged my mother to audition, to be able to take me to this audition. And she was like, okay, fine. Every other child wanted to go and, play soccer and all these different types of things. But I really wanted to audition for this part. I don't know how I found out about it, to be honest with you. But I wanted to audition for this role because I wanted to be in a play. And I didn't know anybody. We didn't know anybody. I just went in there as an outsider. And my mom thought I would be there, maybe a half hour audition and come home. And I did my first audition and they said, could you stick around? And she said, sure. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, no problem. And they're like, she's like, how much longer? She's like, oh, about maybe 30 more minutes. So then I made it to the second round. And then they said, can you stick around later? And she's like, okay. I ended up making it to like the fourth round of the auditions till it was between, I made it to first available, which was between me and this other kid. And my mom was there till like, she got there at like 10 o'clock in the morning and we didn't leave till like midnight. And so we were there like for 12, 13 hours. And they ended up giving it to the other kid because his family was part of the drama club that was there and I wasn't, and they felt it was, I guess, a better political decision to give it to him. But from that point forward, my mom realized that, there was something to it with me. And from that point forward, man, I was acting in high school. And then I ended up going to college, and then I ended up joining an acting class and Art Sake Studios, and I worked with some actors out there. And then there was this one guy, and his name was Dean Scholl, and me and him hit it off really well. And I actually went to his going away party when he was moving to California. And I didn't even know why he was moving to California, but I knew he was moving to California. I know he was moving there for a project or anything, but I knew he was moving to California. And he ended up going to California. I ended up with my coach doing an expedition out there and just go to audition for some casting directors and to do some, just to do some cold reads and things like that. And it ended up not going really well for me because I've never been in that situation before where auditioning professionally. I auditioned in Florida for commercials and booked some commercials and stuff like that, and some non-union stuff, but I never booked like an actual like LA project. And there's different rules and things you have to know and guidelines that you have to follow to look like a seasoned actor, and I didn't have any of that. I was what they called very green. And I went to a casting director's workshop, and I ended up auditioning for this casting director's workshop, and they said that you have really good talent, but you're green. And that really killed me. So they said, we can't work with you. You have to train and do all this, blah blah blah. And I was really pissed because I flew all the way to California, and I thought like everything would open up for me, and the harsh reality, the truth was that I wasn't ready by any means, shape, or form. And I ended up calling Dean because he was already out there. And I picked up Dean. We went and drank, had a great time. During the time that we were hanging out, he told me that he was working on a film, and it was a project called Waiting. And I was like, Waiting? Yeah. He's like, yeah, it's about a restaurant industry, and we have some good talent attached. And he said, I think you'd be great for this role. And so, from that point forward, I ended up auditioning for Waiting, didn't get the role that I originally auditioned for. And then I ended up getting another role. And then, the rest is history. The Waiting became the movie with Ryan Reynolds, Justin Long. You probably know about it. It's about the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
It's a cool classic, and that was my first big role as an actor. And it's a crazy story. I won't get into it, how how the part actually came to me and stuff, how I actually got the part. But that was my first big role becoming. And then from that role, I became SAG. And I ended up actually moving out to LA 3 years later, or 4 or 5 years later, and working out in LA for about 4 or 5 years, not really ever making it big, not ever really booking a lot of stuff. Here and there, I booked some stuff. But it was out there where I met my former business partner, and we ended up having a vision together, and that's how Diamond in the Rough came into play. That's how I, figured out that I can not just do this, but I could figure out that I could actually, do film, I could do television. And from that point forward, that was my jumping off point. And then I booked, then I started booking a whole bunch of other stuff. And yeah, man, still working at it today, still trying to do my things. More importantly, now I'm doing independent things, more of independent films that are more meaningful. I just did another independent film. It's called See You Around, and it's about homelessness, kind of focusing on, it's kind of related to Diamond in the Rough, to be honest with you. But this time, instead of me playing a pastor, I actually play the homeless guy. And then the transition from, no one wanting to help him and feeling hopeless and like a, basically like a homeless bum, to actually be giving it a chance and being able to prove himself that he is worth something in society. So they're editing that as we speak right now, and that's going to hit the film festival market. And I think it's really going to do, if anyone has like a decent bone in their body and anybody is human, we'll say, I think it'll really relate to them and really affect them in a good way.
Okay, before I ask the next question, I'm going to answer your question, which is how I found out about Diamond in the Rough. I'm a huge fan of Clifton Powell. I really like what his style, his charisma. So I've always liked him. I think I first saw him on The Practice. He was a guest star and he just killed it. So that's how it began. And I found out a streaming website called Tubi. And it's do you know that website? Yeah. So I found the movie there. I was checking things out, looking for something to watch. And I found out this poster, Diamond in the Rough, and it had like Clifton Powell on the right in the center. So I checked out the trailer and it didn't really look like my thing.
Right.
But I decided to give it a chance because I don't know why I gave it a chance, to be honest. I think something about the trailer, something about a combination of it, even in the trailer, it felt like it had something special, something heartfelt, maybe. I don't know. I can't really explain it. And of course, it had Clifton Powell. So I said, I had nothing better to do, so I gave it a shot. And I just, loved it.
Yeah, it was amazing to have him on set. He was my former business partner, had contacts with him. We ended up contacting him and calling him, and he ended up coming in for 2 days, worked for 2 days for us, and we shot all the scenes in 2 days. He was a trooper. He worked 12 hours a day, even though he's SAG. I mean, he said, no, man, let's just work through everything. Let's get everything done for you. He was amazing. He's awesome. We had a trailer for him, so, he would have privacy and everything. And we put him up in the, put him up in the hotel. He was really cool too, man, because we put him up in a Holiday Inn, really nice Holiday Inn, but, he was so cool. He wasn't like, he didn't really have a lot of demands or anything, which is awesome, because some movie stars could, as and I know, can be very demanding and very picky and stuff. And he's just really awesome. He got along with everybody, took pictures. Man, he's so cool. We love him to death. I'm still good friends with him. And we, during the pandemic, he was going to come down for the ICF, which is the International Christian Film, ICFF, which is International Christian Film, ICFF, one of the largest Christian film festivals in the world. And he was nominated for Best Actor. I think he won for Best Actor, to be honest with you. He was going to come down for Diamond in the Rough, but he was going to come down, but the pandemic hit and he wasn't able to make it, obviously, because they had it virtually and everything. But till this day, man, he's wonderful. So thank you for thank you for being a fan, because that's awesome. The scene in Diamond too, where Daniel, who I play, and Clifton at the end, that ending scene at the funeral, that came to play because we needed another scene in Diamond to really do the arc of the characters, right? We needed to have Daniel be able to come around and realize what he's done to his family and admit to himself and to God, what he's done, and to be forgiven. And so my wife and I actually wrote that scene right on set. And my wife is Christian, actually, and I'm Jewish. Okay. And we both had a different, take on it. But we ended up putting it together, and I think it really it came out very spiritually. And I think it's one of the most telling scenes in the movie, because it shows the arc of the characters, where they start, and then like I said, Daniel being forgiven. And I think that was a very important message to be shown to the audience, because I think that was something that definitely needed. And then my wife actually ended up writing. She actually wrote it, the last scene with Michelle and her mom and everything too. So it was pretty cool, to have those types of messages being put into the film. And I think it really closed it out very nicely. I should add too, the makeup artist, her name was Corey as well. She also helped write everything as well. So it was a really cool team. It was a really cool team that we actually were able to accomplish that. She's an amazing makeup artist too. So
just for people listening, the movie is Diamond in the Rough. It's the movie we're talking about.
Yeah,
and it's available on several streaming sites, and you can find it
on Amazon Prime now too.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
and it's a very, like you said, it's a very inspiring and it's a very heartfelt movie. So how did the idea for the project come about, and how did you become involved with it?
Yeah, so my former business partner, Clay Walker, actually had the idea of the film. He actually created the idea, and we did it as a play called A Still Small Voice. And they went around Colorado, and they were able to put it on as a show and everything. And then he met with a writer named Louis Oliveira, who actually wrote the original screenplay as part, and we changed, and but it wasn't, it was an original screenplay. It was an idea. It was things that were part of it and everything. And then we actually, my former business partner actually found Rob Walker, and they connected, and Rob Walker ended up writing it and directing it. And he had he's not very, he's awesome. He's not a very Christian person, though. He's very more spiritual, but he did change the script into a much better script than it was. It was a much better, it was more put together and everything. Louis did a great idea with the ideas and with the concept and everything that Clay gave him, but Rob really put it together and worked on it, and ended up being the writer and director for it. But like I said, it needed those two scenes in the film for the closing, and that's why my wife and I stepped in and did that. But the way I got involved was we were talking to a couple investors, and the momentum, the position wasn't going anywhere. And we had this one investor lined up, and my business partner, Clay, was, dead set on starting in this time and everything. And, when there's a will, there's a way. And even though if it's not, the right way, when there's a will, there's a way. And he ended up, really putting in my mind that we were going to do this film. And it had a message of God in it. And my wife and I own a medical spa in Orlando, in Light Skin Body Med Spa in Orlando. And, we were going to put some money to another film that I wrote, but she was like, I'd rather put the money to a faith-based film. So, because Clay was so dead on doing it and we wanted to do it and everyone was ready, I said, you know what? Screw it. Let's put up the money. And so we ended up actually putting up the first, investment for it. And then all the investors fell out. We got some money throughout the whole thing, but my wife and I ended up really financing the whole project. So they started shooting and everything. And then, as independent films go, I thought that things were going very smoothly and stuff. But when we got there, because I was just playing Daniel as part, one of the main leads and everything. So I was just to be out there for 10 days and everything, shooting my scenes and everything. And when we got off the plane, I spoke to the other business partner, Alex Story, at that time. He was help producing as well. And he told me that everything was going to the crapper, to be honest with you. And that, people were threatening to walk off. People were threatening to do this, do that. My former business partner really, he was the one supposed to be in charge of everything, but he had kids at the time. And unfortunately he couldn't be on set, and we didn't really have anybody else. So he was trying to do the best he could, but it was, it was kind of a question of, out of sight, where's the producer, where's this, where's that? No fault of his own, I guess. And I ended up really, I looked at my wife and We looked at each other, and we've been on sets before. My wife's a makeup artist. That's how we met. And so I looked at my wife, she looked at me, and we said, okay, let's take over. And we did. And we took over, and we ended up extending our stay for 8 more days. And we were out there for 18 days. And, you know, since day one, when we were there, we took over and, you know, got it to be to what it is today, is what you saw. But yeah, we basically took the whole thing over. You know, I ended up having to do a speech actually, and my one of my business partners now tells me about it. I just did it at like the heat of the moment, because it was the beginning when everyone was losing their cool, and everyone was like, oh my God, what do we do? And I ended up doing this speech on location, I remember. And after that speech that I made, and I just basically said that, you know, listen, I mean, this is something we've always dreamed of doing, everyone in this room. That's why you're here. You know, you're making a movie. You know, Clifton Powell, you know, is part of this film. He believes in it that much, you know. And I just said, listen, let's put our bygones. Let's work together, and, you know, let's forget about what happened so far, and let's just, you know, let's make a effing film. I won't curse on your show, but let's make a effing film. And everyone started clapping and screaming. Then, you know, from that point forward, I mean, we had some hiccups, but then we just, you know, we knocked it out. And you know, when God's on your side, because this was in Colorado when we shot this, and I was in Florida, and a hurricane actually hit while I was in Colorado near my area. So I was off for like 10 days on my job, but because of the hurricane, like, we were off for another 2 weeks. So I was able to extend my stay for 8 more days. And so I was out there for 18 days.
You can tell if someone, you know, works in the industry, they can tell whether the movie is an independent movie or it has, you know, money being thrown at it. And Diamond in the Rough is definitely, it shows that it's an independent movie and a labor of love, and that it's obvious that it doesn't have like $10 million, you know, behind it. And that's why I think, sorry, go ahead.
I wish it did. You know, we would have.
Yeah, everybody working in Hollywood wishes they did, but
right, exactly.
But I think that's why the movie works in the way it does, because everybody on screen, and of course how the movie is put together, it shows that it's a labor of love, and as I said, it's a heartfelt movie.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about something else, or another aspect of the movie, is that it has a very spiritual aspect to it, to the story and what it says and what it's about, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it handles it in a way that I found very appealing, as someone who is not, as I said, really attracted to sentimentality, and I don't like preaching. I don't like movies that, you know, show their political colors, you know, too much.
Yep.
I don't like that. So, but that movie, to me, it just has so much heart, and it delivers its message in a way that's very non-preachy. At least that's how I saw it. And can you talk a little bit about that, about how you achieved that balance?
Yeah. So again, like I said, my the editors, Kadri and Ian Bennett, they have a company called Lifted Film Music, which they do a whole bunch of things, kind of like what you're talking about, like not spiritual, but actually spiritual and just good feeling, good vibrations, very positive, you know, very positive. They have their own studio and everything. And it was their first time actually shooting a film. And but Ian is a great DP, and the way he shot the film, really, the shots that he set up from Rob's direction really spoke to me and my wife. And there were things that they were doing where we could interject some spirituality from the nature of the shots. And you know, I wanted to interject some psalms that that were not religious, but they were godly, we'll say, very spiritually. And that's why we injected those Psalms into those scenes, because they really spoke to me as not being religious, but as being spiritual. And I think they really conveyed the message that we were looking for, that like, if you're lost, God will find you. And, you know, you're never lost, but God always knows where you are, and things like that. And that's not just in the Christian faith, that's in the Jewish faith, that's in, the Muslim faith. I mean, that's just a standard, I think, that that everyone can relate to. And that was the biggest thing that we wanted to do, was we really wanted to relate to everyone with this film as much as we could, with the budget we had and with the people we had working on it. And one of the things that is most important to me, and why my wife, Dawn Werner, she's the reason this movie was made, because she was able to, she allowed me to use our money. It's not my money, happy wife, happy life, right? So she was able to do that. And I'm Jewish and she's Christian, and the way we work is because we believe in that spirituality together, and it works between us, right? So because Christian faith and the Jewish faith, they have a really big distinction between it, for the role of Jesus. And if we thought like that, our relationship would never work. But we think of the meaning and the meaning of Jesus, and the meaning of being good to people and things like that, and the meaning of God, right? So we see God as the same. We see Jesus as different, of course, because of our religions, but we see God as the same. And we didn't want to put a meaning of Jesus or a meaning of Allah or anything into the movie. We just want to put a meaning of God into the movie. And I think we all really related to that concept, that we wanted God to bless this movie. And I think that's where we all came from. That was our starting point, where we just really wanted God to bless this movie, and really wanted to celebrate that message, in the film. And that's, I think, how it became really spiritual and godly instead of religious and things like that.
I think because the cast is a mix of veterans and new faces, and it's obvious that everybody is having a good time and everybody is giving it their all, basically.
Well, I mean, it's important to tell your audience too. It's an interracial cast too. Like a lot of, most of the whole cast is Black and some of them white, but it's interracial cast. And, I give credit to my business partner, because he really wanted to convey that as well. And I thought that was a great idea on his part as well, because I felt like it related to everyone as well. So I have to give credit to where credit's due, and that was all because of Clay. Yeah,
I just mentioned the cast because I really like that the movie, talked about homelessness and PTSD and heavy, heavy stuff. Mm-hmm. But especially talking about, child homelessness and child abuse and dysfunctional families.
Yeah.
And you see a lot of movies dealing with those issues, especially, I don't want to mention any specific titles, but a lot of them are heavy-handed. A lot of them are very depressing.
Uh-huh.
A lot of them are just, they try to say something, deep, and they do sometimes, but you come out of watching most of them depressed and feeling negative.
Yes.
Especially with movies, coming out of Hollywood, I think in the past at least 20 years, dealing with those issues, with a few exceptions. But that's how I feel watching a lot of those movies, and that's why they don't appeal to me.
Right.
Because I always feel that there is always a way, and hopefully, especially for younger people, hopefully they can overcome. And that's why I really liked Diamond in the Rough, because I think it's a very inspirational movie, especially for teenagers in trouble and teenagers and children dealing with those issues, especially homelessness and broken homes. So I think that's one of the major aspects that appealed to me, and combined with the subdued spirituality, I think I hope that it will appeal to younger people, because I think this message is needed so much now. This message is more timely than ever. So
I agree.
Yeah, so that's why I think this movie is special in many ways.
That means a lot to hear, because that's one of the things we wanted to do. My wife and I actually started a nonprofit called Diamonds in the Rough. So we want to build housing for veterans, for homeless veterans, for veterans. So it's very important to us, based on what we believe and what we believe in. So hopefully when the film makes any type of profit or anything, we'll be able to try to accomplish that. That's an important piece to the whole puzzle, because of the homelessness, and because of things that veterans face, and because children face. We were hoping that this movie would be a special, we feel it's special, obviously, because we did it, it's a labor of love, of course, but we feel that, we would love it to be played in churches and synagogues, all around the world, to show that message that, that you're not alone, and that, like my business partner did, like when there's a will, there's a way. And that you can accomplish anything when you have when you put your heart into it, and you have a good support around you. That's the most important thing. People are strong as their weakest link, and if you surround yourself with good people and you reach out, good people will find you. And then a dream is just a dream until you make it your reality, right? So if you have that dream, then you can accomplish anything, because your reality is your perception, and from that you can accomplish anything, I believe. So we wanted to convey that in the film.
So what are you working on now?
Like I said, I was working on that film, See You Around. It's a movie, about homelessness again. In Diamond, I play, not the preacher, that was another film I did called Revelations. In Diamond, I play Daniel, the veteran, but suffers from PTSD. And another film that I did, I play a preacher with a movie called Revelations. And then this other film that I just completed is called See You Around, which is all about homelessness. I really, the last 3 films that I've done, to be honest with you, have been about PTSD, homelessness, and substance abuse. All the 3 things that Diamond actually covers, and individually as well. So I think that's kind of like making, what I'm doing now, with everything, is trying to do films with good intent, good meaning, whether they have big budgets or not. I remember we got picked up by Tubi too, and I was like, "What's Tubi?" And I had no clue what Tubi was. And then I realized that Clifton Powell has a huge following on Tubi.
Yeah, streaming is just it has its ups and downs. It has its pluses and its minuses. But I think it's just like, for a movie like Diamond in the Rough, I think movies like that now they would never have a chance in theaters.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm.
So streaming, I think, is the only way left now for these smaller movies. And especially, I don't want to get into I don't want to get too heavy, but
right.
I think the way things are going artistically, movies that are positive in one way or another are somehow looked down upon.
Yeah.
So that's why I think without streaming services and there would be no chance, no opportunity to show a movie like Diamond in the Rough and that has this kind of story.
Yeah, and one of the things that was really important to us too is that we covered the veteran piece of it and made it as authentic as possible. Like even the PTSD scenes when they're, when Daniel's freaking out and then hits his daughter, and then, I don't want to say too much and everything for your audience and everything, but when he goes on those rants, and then from that point, there's that arc of that character that he circles back and is sorry for what he's done and is forgiven. I mean, I wanted people to see that are veterans, especially that watched it. And it's interesting because we did get some reviews and everything, and there were some veterans that said, I couldn't even finish watching some of the scenes because they were so realistic and they were so real. I had to pause the movie and go back to it because it was so real. And I was so happy to see that there was a happy ending, because of what I'm going through and what my family went through. When I got that review, I think it was Amazon Prime or something, but I think when I read that review, it's that's really powerful to hear or to read, and to see that someone actually, was taken through that journey by our film. I thought that was pretty amazing, so I get it. I get what you're saying.
Well, Jordan, I don't want to take any more of your time.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for joining me on the show. And thank you for making Diamond in the Rough. It's an uplifting movie, and I needed a movie like that. And a lot of people out there, I think, need a movie like Diamond in the Rough right now. And I hope people check it out. And I hope you join me on the show again.
So, I thank you. And, I thank my former business partner, Clay Walker, for creating it and reaching out to me so we could actually accomplish it. And, I just want to say thank you again. Happy holidays. And it was great speaking with you.
Don't die, Daddy.
I'm not gonna die. I don't plan on it, okay? I love you, Michelle. Take care of Mom, okay?
You can run on for a long
I baptize you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
You
have family?
Not anymore.
You see, that's what happens!
So go on. Got a home to go to, then go.
Do you ever think about God? They say he's looking out for us.
Me and her are friends, pal. Get lost!
You okay?
Have I not commanded you to be strong? Do not be afraid.
Do not settle for being average. You can be great, be phenomenal.
When you fight against the water always wins, all right? So make friends with the water, merge with the water.
Is God going to happen, Pastor?
Oh, God's going to happen whether you believe it or not.
What makes a story a Christmas story? Some movies are called Christmas movies because they take place during Christmas. Movies like A Christmas Story, which was released in 1983, and any adaptation of Dickens's A Christmas Carol or National Lampoon's A Christmas Vacation are obvious choices. And almost any book by Dickens is very suitable for Christmas. But what about mysteries? A number of books by Agatha Christie are also Christmas stories, the most obvious of which is Hercule Poirot's Christmas and The Adventure of the Christmas Pudding. But there are also many other stories that take place during snowy winters and in winter settings in general, and which are perfect for the season, like 450 from Paddington and many other Miss Marple stories. And then there are the less obvious choices, stories that don't necessarily take place in Christmas or in winter, or maybe they do take place in winter, but are not necessarily thought of when people are selecting movies or books that are suitable for the season. Almost anything by Anthony Trollope, especially his wonderful Barchester Chronicles, with their cozy settings and witty humor, work great for the Christmas season. Any Sherlock Holmes story works, but for maximum wintry Christmassy impact, The Hound of the Baskervilles is the best choice, because its setting basically, by the moor with the very gothic, wintry, snowy setting and its mysterious aspect, although it is a dark story, probably one of, if not the darkest Sherlock Holmes story, there's still something about it, again, about the setting and the mood and the atmosphere that makes it a perfect story for a cozy Christmas night, sitting by the fireplace, reading this book. I think is great for Christmas. Fortitude by Hugh Walpole, a terrific and unfairly forgotten novel about perseverance and faith, is also a very good choice, and a book that is unfairly forgotten. As I mentioned, a lot of people don't know about this book because I think Hugh Walpole is basically almost completely forgotten and a very underrated author, and many of his books people don't remember now, but I think Fortitude is one of his masterpieces, and because of the book's message and because of the book's scope, it is a very good choice for Christmas. And you can read a full review of the book on my website. Devoted by Dean Koontz is a heartwarming and deeply atmospheric suspense novel and is also a great choice for the season. As for movies, aside from the obvious choices like It's a Wonderful Life, Meet John Doe, also directed by Frank Capra, is a less known but subtler and more intelligent film with a timeless message, and features one of Gary Cooper's best performances, and again, because of its plot and its setting, it's great for Christmas. Cry Macho, starring and directed by Clint Eastwood, is a perfect choice. It's a moving, funny, and humane film, and it deserved a lot better at the box office, and if you missed it, now is a great time to catch up with the film. The 2018 version of Benji, released on Netflix, is a good remake of the family classic and has a lot to offer. The dog hero is cute and lovable, the human characters are very memorable, and the story is well written, so this is also a good choice. So there is a lot of good stuff out there, and there isn't a better time than Christmas to catch up on your reading and on watching a lot of feel-good movies. I'd like to end this episode with a poem by Robert Louis Stevenson called Wintertime. This version is read by Thomas Peter and is taken from the LibriVox website, and you can download this and many other poems, stories, and novels from the site. Thanks for listening, Merry Christmas, and please join me again on the Dark Fantastic podcast.
Late lies the wintry sun abed, a frosty, fiery sleepyhead, blinks but an hour or two, and then, a blood-red orange, sets again. Before the stars have left the skies, at morning in the dark I rise, and shivering in my nakedness, by the cold candle, bathe and dress. Close by the jolly fire I sit, to warm my frozen bones a bit, or with a reindeer sled, explore the colder countries round the door. When to go out, my nurse doth wrap me in my comforter and cap. The cold wind burns my face, and blows its frosty pepper up my nose. Black are my steps on silver sod, thick blows my frosty breath abroad, and tree and house, and hill and lake, are frosted like a wedding cake.
You've been listening to the Dark Fantastic Podcast.